What's up guys, and welcome to the channel. It's Ioana here, founder and CEO of Supwell. Today I'm back with another up-tempo running shoe comparison. This time we're gonna take a look at a plated trainer versus a non-plated trainer. I've been doing a lot of these non-plated training shoe comparisons, but digging out one of my old trusty friends from last season, my favorite plated speed day shoe. This is the Adidas Takumi Sen 8. Very similar to the current model version, Takumi Sen 9. They just did slightly revised upper updates. And I'm gonna take a look at that against the New Balance Rebel V3, which is what I've been using this season for a lot of those speed day workouts. I've been rotating between this and the Hyperion Max. So in this video, I'm gonna take a look at both of these across the upper, the midsole, the outsole, the specs, and the ride. And I'll let you know which one of these is gonna be best for you. All right, let's get into it. Quick overview of the Takumi Sen and Rebel V3. So Takumi Sen is part of that Adizero collection from Adidas. It includes the daily training Adizero SL. It also has that top tier marathon racing Adidas Pro 3. And then this is going to be that 5K, 10K racing shoe, or what many runners use like me for that tempo training or interval training shoe, Takumi Sen. Now in the other corner here, we have that New Balance Rebel V3. This one is in that fuel cell collection from New Balance, which is characterized by that fuel cell foam here in the midsole. And that collection includes shoes like the SC Pacer, which would actually be the one that might go against this if we were doing a head-to-head comparison. But more runners use the Rebel V3 as that speed day shoe instead of the SC Pacer, so that's the one that I wanted to look at in this video. Now the Takumi Sen comes in at 6.2 ounces, while the Rebel V3 is at 7.1 ounces. I'll get into the differences between the weight when we get into some of those other sections, but on foot, they don't feel that different. Where we are gonna see a big difference, at least in MSRP, is the listing price, right? So we have this Adidas Takumi Sen listed at $180 and the New Balance Rebel V3 around $130. But with both of these, you can find them for around $100 if you do some digging. So if you subscribe, I do weekly deal roundup. So anytime either of these are on sale, I'll include it in my weekly deal roundup. You should be able to find them for under 100 or around 100 most of the year. All right, let's get into the midsole comparison of these. So straight off the bat, these have two of my favorite midsoles. Let's take a look at the Adidas Takumi Sen first. So this one is using a full bed of Adidas's Light Strike Pro foam. It's that same foam that's in the Adidas Adios Pro 3, same foam that they include a little puck of in the Adizero SL, but in here it's a full bed strengthened by some energy rods, which run through the whole platform. Now, this Light Strike Pro is dense, it's a bit on the firmer side, but it is very bouncy and responsive. So for me, I'm 6'2", for some context, around 160 pounds, but I run with a lower cadence and a lot of force. I really open up my stride. So I like to have a firmer shoe when I'm pushing the pace that can respond to all that power that I tend to put out. I'm not a very light on my foot, efficient type of runner. I'm a hard charging runner. So having a shoe like this is really nice because this firmer midsole and then strengthened by those energy rods really gives me the right type of platform to push the pace in. Now in terms of the stack, we're seeing 33 in the heel and 27 up in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. I gotta say, on paper, having that above 30 in the heel, it doesn't really feel like that on the foot. This feels very minimal and dart-like. I think it's because it's a pretty skinny platform. If you take a look at it from the top, it's almost like a, I don't know, high heel. When I put this on, I feel like I'm in my dancing slippers or something. It is very minimal on the foot. So this foam, and you can also see there's some strategic cutouts from the foam as well. So it feels very light on the foot. The stack doesn't feel as high as it actually is, but not a bad thing because of that lightweight. Now, if we take a look at the New Balance Rebel V3 here, this is using that fuel cell foam, which is that same foam we see across that fuel cell lineup from New Balance. So some heavy hitters like the SC Trainer, the New Balance SC Elite, and the SC Pacer. Now in here, it's a very soft formulation of that foam. I'm not sure if they're using slightly tweaked formulations across those shoes, but in here it feels very soft because again, it's not plated versus the Takumi Sen, which has those energy rods in the bottom. So it feels very comfortable underfoot, but when you pick up the pace, it is nice and responsive. I will say a difference between how these midsoles feel is because the Takumi Sen has those energy rods and is more sculpted, while it's not the most stable, it does feel more planted, right? Because with this Rebel having a wider base, and a softer foam. It can feel, I won't say unstable, but a little jello-y like when you're at some of those easier miles. It is comfortable, but if you need support, if you're an overpronator, it might not be the best option for you. Now the stack of this guy right here is 27.5 in the heel and 21.5 for a 6mm drop. So what we're seeing here is a difference in 6mm of stack. This one is 33.27, this one is 27.21. It doesn't exactly feel like that on foot because, again, the Takumi Sen feels pretty low profile. And even just looking at them, it doesn't exactly look like that. They both feel decently minimal on foot. Now, in terms of the foams themselves, both of these are supercritical foams. So the Adidas Light Strike is a supercritical TPEE, and the New Balance Fuel Cell is a supercritical EVA and TPU blend. All that supercritical means is that there's gas that's been injected into these foams during the manufacturing process, which tends to add a bit more bounciness, airiness, and responsiveness into the compounds. All right, now let's get into the ride comparison between these two. So the biggest difference between these two is that the Takumi Sen is gonna be much firmer than the New Balance Rebel V3. The Rebel V3 is more of a relaxed shoe. You can use this as a daily trainer. You could use this as a long run shoe if you're efficient, and it'll be comfortable through all of those miles. I did a 10-mile run this morning in the Rebel V3 at a steady pace. So for me, that was around 6:50. I was modulating between my aerobic pace, then picking it up to marathon pace and faster for some miles. And this was the perfect shoe for that because it's light enough where if I'm going marathon pace or faster, it feels comfortable, it feels fast. But then when I slow it down a bit, it doesn't feel harsh. Despite that lower stack height, it still feels like a nice shoe on the foot. Adidas Takumi Sen, on the other hand, I refuse to use this for anything other than interval training days if I'm going to the track or if I want to run an all-out 2 to 5 mile type of run. This is not the most comfortable ride on foot. If you look at the bottom here, a big reason is because it just has all these cutouts. So it's really encouraging you to run up on the pad of your foot, up on the forefoot here. If you're landing in the heel, it's not the widest platform. If we take a look out here in the back compared to the Rebel V3, it's not the widest platform. It has these massive chunked cutouts from the midfoot, and then even in the forefoot, right, it has this little cutout. So it's a shoe that's encouraging you to run on your toes, to run fast, not really a shoe for anything other than those fastest training days. All right, now let's get into the upper comparison. So upper of the New Balance Rebel V3 is gonna be much more comfortable. Their materials themselves aren't that dissimilar. The Adidas might be a bit scratchier and tighter, but the biggest difference is gonna be that fit. So the Rebel V3 is much more forgiving. It's a much wider fit. The Adidas Takumi Sen 8 is very tight on foot. I have to fight to get this thing on. I have a standard, maybe a bit touch high volume type of foot, but this thing is really impossible to get on. It's hard to lace. They also send it to you from the factory with the laces the wrong way. So if you do buy this, you're gonna wanna relace it, get those laces right to make it a lot easier to get on foot. Yeah, it feels like a soccer cleat or a track spike or something where it's really just there for that efficiency for you to fire off and go. It's not there for you to be cupcaking around town. New Balance Rebel V3, on the other hand, I've worn this to the gym. I wouldn't wear this as a casual shoe because it's not my style, but you could definitely wear it as a comfortable casual shoe. Takumi Sen, if I saw someone wearing this as a casual shoe, I might ask them if they're doing okay because this thing probably cut the circulation off of your big toe. Both of these have decent to good breathability. I will say I did a workout in probably 85 degrees in the Rebel V3, and by the end of that, the entire bottom of the shoe, this insole, was just a puddle of sweat. I don't think they use the highest quality materials in some of the construction on the Rebel V3, but that's okay given the $130 price point. Takumi Sen, on the other hand, the construction of this is beautiful. It's a really well-made shoe, even though it's not the most comfortable. All right, guys, you know the program. Favorite part of the review, the outsole. All right, so let's take a look at the outsoles of these two shoes. So over here, we got the Takumi Sen, here we got the Rebel. The Takumi Sen is using Adidas's Continental rubber, which is one of my favorites and one of the most lauded, praised rubbers in the running game. It is really tacky, really sticky, and really durable. So I ran a half marathon in the Takumi Sen. It wasn't my best race, but I ran a half marathon in the rain with the Takumi Sen. I had no issues. It was a very windy and hilly course, and it was extremely planted. One downside here is if you are a heel striker, you might get some degradation of the foam here in the back. It's not the best for me here. I've started to chew up a little bit of it at probably around 100 miles, but most of the time where I'm wearing these shoes, I'm not heel striking because I'm running my fastest 5K, 10K paces and firing off the toe here. But you can see the Takumi Sen has about 100 miles on it, and the rubber still looks intact. It's in good shape. If you go over to the Rebel V3 here, it also has strategic rubbers. There's probably a bit more of it on the platform than we see on the Adidas, just because the midfoot section here doesn't have that foam cutout, but it's highly similar to the Adidas. I will say the rubber on here is probably a bit less sticky. If the Takumi Sen is an 8 or 9 out of 10, the Rebel V3 is probably a 6 or 7 out of 10, but no issues with either of these in wet, dry, muddy conditions. I wouldn't take either of these off-road just because they're not that type of a shoe. You could get by with the Rebel V3 on a light trail. I have done it on a gravel path, but anything other than that, I wouldn't be going for either of these shoes. Alright guys, so finally, who are these best for? So let's start with the Takumi Sen. This one is going to be best if you are an advanced runner, you're in the thick of marathon training or training for another race, and you want a shoe that can push the pace and help support those fastest interval training days. So if you're doing workouts of up to 10 miles total, maybe you have 3 to 6 miles of quality work in there, this is going to be a great shoe to help you hit those 5K, 10K, or faster type of paces. You aren't going to want to use it probably for any other day of the week. Maybe if you had an 8-mile tempo or below and you're an efficient runner, you could get by using this, but I would not recommend this for anything other than those fastest training days. If you do want a specialized 5K, 10K racing shoe, because that is what this is designed for, you could also use it for that work. I personally prefer to use a Vaporfly or Endorphin Pro 3 for any race distance though. Now the Rebel V3 is going to be a really good option if you prefer a softer type of feel for your interval training, or if you want a slightly faster, more minimal daily trainer. This is a really nice option for a lightweight and durable daily trainer. I've done a comparison of this against the Hoka Mach 5, and it pretty much wipes the floor in terms of durability versus the Mach 5. So if you're looking for something that has a nice flexible feel, that's one thing I didn't show you guys yet. Look at this. That's my favorite part about this shoe. This has a really flexible feel. So if you like a more minimal style, a more natural style shoe on foot, Rebel V3 is a good option. Some runners might prefer a slightly firmer shoe for those fast days. For example, I've been using the Hyperion Max for my fastest training paces because I'm going non-plated this block. But the Rebel V3 is a good fallback as a secondary speed shoe and for that tempo shoe, so 10 to 12 miles where you're pushing the pace. These are both worth their price, and with them being discounted to around $100 or below most of the time, both of these are great buys. Alright guys, so there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, go check out supwell.io. I have built a running shoe database there that has all of the popular training shoes that I review on the site. I have every single spec imaginable. I have the foam, is it super critical, the weight, the drop, the outsole pictures. It's awesome. Go ahead and check that out. As always, thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and I'll make sure to keep you up to date on the latest and greatest in the world of performance running.